Hi, this is Zach from Mercury Works. Today I'm going to show you the Grafmatic, the most amazing invention in large format photography. This back can take up to 6 sheets of 4x5 large format film and can cycle through and shoot them as quickly as or more quickly than a roll film back. And as we'll see, thanks to Mercury Works, it's capable also of shooting 65 millimeter and 70 millimeter panoramic images. Okay, so basically the way this back works is it has a mechanism that you pull out. And as you pull it out, what it does is it operates a dark slide, but it also shifts 6 little film holders called septums, and it continually takes the one you shot and shuffles it back behind the others so that they rotate in 6. And actually it's not linear. You could rotate multiple times and decide which ones to shoot at what time. So you can actually load multiple different types of film in one Grafmatic and choose which ones to shoot. It's far more advanced than any roll film back ever could be. And it's incredibly small, thin, and pretty lightweight. I think some people are just intimidated by these, and that's why they aren't used more often. Also, of course, only now have we been able to make them capable of shooting very inexpensive 65 millimeter and 70 millimeter film, which greatly expands their use, both for large format cameras and for the Mercury Stereo cameras. So first of all, we're going to open this up and load it, and I'll show you how it works. To load it, you first need to be on frame number 1. This is your frame counter, and if you can see, it's currently on X. X means you've shot all 6, or you've at least cycled through all 6 of your frames, and it thinks you're ready to unload. So that's what we'll do, but it won't actually let us open the back. It's locked closed until you advance manually to frame number 1. So that's what I'm going to do. Snap it to frame number 1, and now we can open it up. And to open it up, this is what we do. We pull this with our thumb, we pull this little lever latch. This is how you normally advance frames. But instead of, as we'll see later, when you advance frames, you're going to push this back in. Instead, to unload it, what you do is when it's fully open like this, you, with this handle here, the black handle, letting go of the silver piece, is we push in a little. And notice when we do, that silver lever snaps back. This actually, it's the danger signal. We're about to open up the back. To do it, we flip it over, and now we pull the dark slide handle all the way open. And when we do, we pull it all the way, you'll notice that these septums that are inside popped up. Now, if we were actually unloading this after having shot it, we would of course do this in the dark. And when you're loading it, you also need to load it in the dark. So pretty much, unless you're just testing the mechanism, you want to do this in a changing bag or a dark room or a pitch black space. Anyway, what you get are 6 little septums that pop up here, and you can remove just by kind of pulling them out. And these are basically these are like little film holders. They're called septums. Each one of these is meant to hold a sheet of 4x5 film. And to unload it, you would just pull it right out. To load it, you would do the exact opposite. You would just take the film, slide it in all the way until it stops. The film needs to be oriented. You'll notice there's a big cutout on the holder, and of course all 4x5 film has a notch. That tells you which side is the emulsion whenever you're holding the film in the dark and you can feel the notch at the upper right-hand corner with your finger, you know that you're emulsion side up. Furthermore, you're properly aligned to load the film in relation to this big notch. All right? So basically you're trying to get your notch on the film in the same place as the notch on the septum, and that way you know you're loaded. Now, if you were just loading 4x5 sheets, you would load all 6 septums and make sure they're aligned in a stack, and that this corner, in relation to the back, is in the upper left. In this position, that's the position that needs to go into the back. And you just put them in there and push them in place. However, 2 things to know. One is you don't need to load it with 6 full frames. Maybe I only want to load 3 frames. That's fine, but if I do that, I need to load 3 empty septums. You always have to have all 6 septums in the back or you will get leaks, film flatness, film plane problems. Don't load fewer than 6 septums, even if you're loading fewer frames of film. It's fine. What you need to do is you load your actual film on top of the stack. The way this is going to work is the top, when you insert this stack in there, the top frame on the stack is actually your frame number 1. It's going to correspond to the frame counter number 1. The second one is number 2. The third one is number 3, etc. Okay? That's how that works. Now, the cool thing here is that with Mercury Works septums, what we do is we can alter these septums to take long roll medium format film, which is to say 65 millimeter and 70 millimeter film, which is, of course, it comes in bulk rolls and it's very inexpensive. A tiny fraction of the price of a sheet of 4x5 film. So, as an example of that, this is a 65 millimeter frame septum from Mercury Works. Now to load that, I won't show you how to cut from bulk the proper strips. I've shown that in another video, how to load cut film holders with 65 and 70 millimeter film. It's very simple and to do. It's a quick snip of the scissors with our guide, but we're going to assume for the sake of this video that we've already got some cut film. We would again, of course, do this in the dark. Say we open this up, take a sheet of film, and it's also notched from when you cut it, and you want to make sure that your emulsion side up by feeling that little corner notch, and you just insert it into the septum in the center, but otherwise just like you would a 4x5 sheet of film. You want to make sure the film gets under this little lip on the right edge, kind of press it down, same with the 45 actually, 4x5 film. Now again, our little notch is going to be aligned with the big notch in the septum. That's still the same right there. That's how you know in the dark. If you're cutting this right away, it almost doesn't matter. You can just cut it and load it right in. But if you have cut it previously and are loading it from a box, then this is important to make sure you've got the right corner in the right place. There you go. And as you can see, this is going to shoot a big panoramic image on a 4x5 camera, or it's going to shoot a stereo pair on a Mercury Stereo camera. So there you go. You have that septum. We also have 70 millimeter septums, and the difference with the 70 millimeter, besides of course it accepts a slightly different size of film, is we always add on these a little notch on the septum down here. You can feel this in the dark, and the reason we have that is that so you can tell the difference between a 65 millimeter septum and a 70 millimeter septum in the dark. 65 millimeter septum, has no notch. It's smooth on this side, but it of course has the ridges for 65 millimeter film. 70 millimeter feels the same in the dark, but it also in addition has this little notch, so if you ever wonder if you're mixing them in the dark, if you're doing a load that mixes them, you can feel that little notch and know that this is a 70 millimeter septum. Okay, so the beauty here is that you can mix and match these however you want. You could shoot all 6 septums with 65 millimeter film. You could, let's say, if you wanted to throw in a couple of black and whites, you could do 4 septums of 65 millimeter and 2 septums of 70 millimeter. So you load black and white film in the 70 millimeter, of course color film in the 65 millimeter ones, and you're all in your load ready to go. You can shoot color or black and white. I don't recommend mixing different types of emulsions within a format. So for instance, a slow speed and a fast speed 65, you can certainly do that and keep very careful track of them, but it's easy to lose track of them in the dark. In the dark, you can tell the difference between 4x5, 65, and 70, but you can't tell the difference between different types of film within 65 or 70 millimeter. You can with the 4x5 if you know the notches, but that's advanced technique. Anyway, what you do is, again, load your 6 septums. In this case, let's just say we've got a 65 and then a 70 and then 4 4x5 sheets. Just assume that that's what we're doing. But however you do it, you want 6 septums. Okay, so when you've got your stack, and again, remember, the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Starting from the top is number 1. You load them in like this. You can feel this in the dark very easily. You just get them in this groove and you push them forward to the left all the way. And when you're and then you push them down. So this is spring loaded. You push down all 6 all the way. Don't push too hard. You don't want to bend these septums. They're very, very delicate. And if you mess one up, you're going to have to replace it. But you push them down, and then you push this dark slide in over the edge of the septums, and once you've done that, it will close all the way. And then, once the dark slide part's closed, you push the second set closed until it snaps all the way closed. Once you've closed this up, you'll notice that you're still back on frame number 1, dark slide's in place, your film's ready to go. The last thing you need to do is label what's in the back. And to do that, if it were all 6 of the same thing, you could just write out what it is, right? What's loaded in there, what kind of film, and what's your ISO. But if you have different formats or different film in the different locations of your 6 possible frames, you would actually write it out. And you'll notice this is large and vertical here exactly for this reason. You write on this with a standard pencil, and you would actually write your numbers 1, 2, 3, etc. And you could say 65 millimeter, 250D, and then number 2, 70 millimeter, black and white. Number 3, 4x5, black and white, whatever it is. And you write out what, let's say that's 3 through 6, right? You just write out what's inside there. This is very important for later. This is ready to shoot on any large format camera, but one quick caveat: if you were to shoot this on a Mercury Stereo camera, there's something important. You'll notice this sticker on here that says Mercury Stereo Ready. There's a modification that you need to do for stereo cameras that you don't need for large format, although kind of recommended for those too. By default, there's a little counting wheel here that exposes the frame number onto the film itself. Not really that useful, not really necessary. It takes up a little bit of space, and on a stereo camera, when you're mounting this on Mercury Stereo camera, the space it takes up is actually vital space that would shrink the width of your image significantly. It's kind of less important on 4x5, but it still will take up some of your frame space. It needs to be removed. It's a metal wheel, and it's somewhat challenging to remove without damaging anything in the camera. So we do that modification, and then make sure that it's labeled as stereo ready. So again, if you want to shoot this on a stereo camera, you need to have that modification done, or you'll have more narrower images. It's still okay, but on a large format camera, it's optional. When you're shooting this, here's how the mechanism operates. In order to expose a frame, you need to open and then close the dark slide. Again, this does not work like a normal dark slide where it's open to shoot, closed to block the light. This dark slide, in order to shoot, always needs to be closed, but you need to cycle it in order to expose the film. So right now, when we are on a number on our here, and this is black, this part, it means the film is not ready to be exposed, right? It's dark slides in place. But what you do is, in order to shoot a frame, again, I want to now shoot frame number 1, what I do is I cycle the dark slide. Just pull this handle out all the way. You can hear it snap. And then I push it back in. Notice, though, that now this is red. There's a red dot exposed here. Hopefully you can see that. The red dot, which was covered before, now means your film is exposed to the light. See? Now, of course, you would only do that on camera. When you're ready to shoot, you cycle the dark slide like that and see your red dot, and you know your film is exposed to the light, ready to take your exposure. And you would shoot your shot, take your exposure on the camera, and then you need to advance to the next frame. Remember, there's no dark slide that can close this frame to take it off of the camera or change lenses or anything like that. You need to advance to your next frame. To do that, you hold this and you pinch, you pull with your thumb this little silver lever in to the black, and then together you pull it out all the way till it snaps, and then you're still holding it, you push it back again until it snaps. Notice now that we've advanced to frame number 2 and that the red dot is now covered up. What does that mean? It means basically that we are on frame number 2. And you can reference here what film it is. And if you flip it, it's covered by the dark slide. All right? Dark here means the dark slide's blocking your film on frame number 2. In order to shoot it, we're ready, we're on camera, we're ready to shoot. We need to cycle the dark slide, open, closed. Now the red dot is visible, and your film, I didn't put any film in there, but your film would be exposed to the light. Frame number 2, ready to expose. You expose it, and then you advance to frame number 3. When you're ready to shoot frame number 3, you cycle the dark slide. Great, no problem, right? That's frame number 3. As you can see, you can do this very, very quickly. To advance to another frame, you always just go, and you're ready to shoot. What happens if I don't want to shoot this frame? Either because, let's say we got it ready and then I realized something was wrong. The light changed, my subject ran away, or for whatever reason, I realized I do not want to shoot this frame after all. But wait, I'm on a red dot. The film is exposed. How do I, let's say, cycle to another frame and ignore this one, or get it protected by the dark slide again? The only way to do it is to advance the frame. You can do that though. You don't have to shoot this frame. You can go ahead and advance. I'm on number 4. Okay, now I'm on number 5, and my dark slide's back in place, right? You can do that, and I would probably make a note on here. Oh, okay, frame number 4, you know, I put a check or something, say 4 is skipped or whatever. However you want to mark it to show that you did not shoot frame 4, you skipped over it. You can come back to it later. Now, if you want to navigate to a particular frame because you skipped it earlier, maybe you skipped it because it was black and white and you want color, but later you want to come back to the black and white, or you skipped it because you made a mistake and had to abort that shot and advance in order to protect the film, you can just come back to it. You can just come back to it. You can cycle through these as many times as you want. Now, let's say I want to skip 5. But you need to know that if you're going to skip a frame, you still need to operate the dark slide. You can't advance without also cycling the dark slide, right? i.e. exposing that shot to light. So you can skip a frame, but that's what you need to do. Dark slide and that. Say I want to skip number 6, dark slide, advance. Okay, to shoot our first shot, we operate the dark slide so that the red is showing. Now the film's ready to expose. And now we will cycle it to the next frame. At this point, the dark slide's in. We can't see our red circle, so it's not ready to expose. But when we're ready to expose our second shot, we operate the dark slide. It's red, ready to expose. Then we cycle it to the next. When we're ready to shoot, operate the slide, expose. And if we want to skip ahead, let's say to frame number 5, we can do that. Now we're on frame 5, so we've skipped 4. Ready to expose. Can shoot 5, and after 6, it takes us to X. And at this point, it won't allow us to advance anymore. It thinks you're at the end of all of the septums. But if you do want to cycle back, for instance, we want to cycle to number 4, which we skipped earlier because perhaps it wasn't the type of film that we wanted, but we're ready later, what we need to do in order to advance from here is manually advance X to 1. And at this point, we actually are on frame 1 and could advance from here. So let's say we want to go to 4. We can do this very quickly. Now we're on 4, and we're ready to shoot that.